Welcome to the Joy of Coding!
Hello, and welcome to episode 378 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. We're going to be live hacking, going to be working on some documentation today for some Firefox stuff. It's quite apropos. I'll explain in just a second. But let's start by sharing my screen. Hey, guess what? It's October 2nd, 2024, episode 378. A reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I think I know how things are going to go, but I could be wrong. I'm not always right. And that means that we might get stuck, sidelined. I might be working on documentation and all of a sudden some emergency shows up and we're going to have to deal with that. That could happen. I'm trying to capture my workday as I would normally do it for a particular thing. And that means sometimes you context switch or things don't go according to plan. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the agenda that we're looking at, which, you know, if you're viewing it in this mode, this agenda has a lot of handy dandy links in it, and it's available for you, you know, wherever you're watching this, there's a link to it. So if you're watching this on Twitch, if you scroll down in the channel details section, you're going to find the agenda, a link to the agenda. Same with the YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's down in the video description. And if you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's over in the details section on your left, my right. And yeah, it's as I update it, this little spinny will spin. And if you reload, the agenda should update to what I've got on my screen. So documentation. And what's this all about? Well, yesterday, I was helping out with an incident, a rather unfortunate incident that made me realize how important it is for us to continue our customizable UI documentation effort. So this had to do with a bug that surfaced, what was it, bookmark? Yeah, this one. So we, yesterday was Tuesday, October 1st. That's when we started shipping the, a new release of Firefox. I think it was 131 went out yesterday. That also meant that the first betas for 132 went out yesterday as well, and people on beta noticed this very unfortunate bug for the people who updated early, where sometimes their toolbars would get into this really gross state. Like, I don't know if anyone put a screenshot in here. I bet they did. Yeah, this person, like, it's all reversed, and it's in all of their, you know, maybe some of their toolbar items that they'd customized around had been moved or gone away or something, and that was not great. So yesterday, as soon as we got wind of like how many people were experiencing this, because we heard about it mostly in Bugzilla. Like if you look, there's a bunch of people started filing things in Bugzilla, but we also noticed it in various channels, support channels, like I think there was a thread on Connect about it. I think some people on social media were talking about it. I think someone pointed to, I found a thread on Reddit where someone was talking about it. So we realized, you know, a lot of people were experiencing this issue, and within you know, within our server infrastructure, we have the ability to throttle up and down updates, and we immediately started shutting off updates for beta. We're just like, okay, hold on, we need to stop the bleed here, figure out what the heck's going on before before we let things continue. And so a deep dive analysis took place, and this had higher priority than most of the things I was doing yesterday because yeah, I mean, it prevented us from shipping beta, and beta is really, really important to us for finding bugs like this, but also other bugs. And so the longer you block beta, the less coverage you get for finding other issues. This was obviously a glaring issue. Beta is like a proving ground for, you know, the version of the browser that we are eventually hoping to ship 132 in about a month's time. And so, yeah, right off the bat, it went to beta. Now the question was, why did people start seeing this only in beta? Why didn't this get caught in nightly? And that's a really good question. And part of it has to do with the fact that it was a race condition, a bit of a race condition, and it was exacerbated or made more obvious to people if they were using Developer Edition, which is built off of beta. So as soon as our Developer Edition people started to update, they were the ones who really saw the bug. And that's why we saw such an influx of bugs, is Developer Edition is oftentimes used by people who are used to using issue trackers and filing bugs and stuff. So that's why it didn't get caught. Like there had been someone had posted a screenshot somewhere in like late September, And we were like, what happened to that toolbar? But we didn't have enough information to really understand what had happened. And as soon as a bunch of these got filed, that's when we shut off updates and we started asking people for logs. We started trying to get people to reproduce it. Because, like, the real key to solving a bug like this, I'm probably not saying anything surprising to anyone who's ever been in the business of writing software, but the key to fixing an issue like this is reproducibility. If we can reproduce the issue on our side, we have a much higher probability of understanding what's going wrong and then fixing it. Because otherwise we're just guessing. If we can't reproduce it, then we're guessing, and that is very slow for us to diagnose. So there was a lot of back and forth. There were people supplying logs. My colleague Heiss was in here. He had some theories right off the bat, which ended up being, he was right. Like, he nailed it. But we were throwing information back and forth. People showed up from, our new people in Bugzilla started supplying information, which was helpful. Some people supplied logs, and then we got some steps to reproduce. As soon as we had some steps to reproduce, we were able to start teasing apart this problem. And the actual patch, like I started to do an analysis, and I was able to get a partial reliable reproduction. And then I ended up finding what I think was the right solution based on basically Heiss's finding from earlier in that day. He was right, and we had made a bad assumption. If you want to know what the bad assumption was, we have this map inside of the customizable UI module called G Future Placements, and we had made a mistake in a patch that landed in Nightly where we thought that if a placement... We didn't realize that all placements exist within G Future Placements by default. Not just the ones that have future placements, but the ones that don't have future placements have an entry. They just are empty sets. They are empty set objects. And so this will always return true. And what we really wanted to be checking here was whether or not the set inside of G Future Placements mapped to a particular area has a size greater than 0. That's what we really meant to be doing here. And that had to do with whether or not, when we're saving the state of the toolbar, what placements are supposed to look like in the event that we're doing it early on. Because, like I mentioned earlier, this was a bit of a race, and it had to do with writing the state of the toolbars too early. In the state of Dev Edition, Developer Edition, that was what's happening, is because of the customizations that Developer Edition does early during startup, it causes the toolbars to flush their state to preferences early, so early that they fall down this wrong branch. They would fall down this branch. This would be an empty set, making this an empty array, this placements array being empty, and we wouldn't go into one of the other branches that we were supposed to fall into. And as soon as you had placements be an empty array for some of the built-in areas in the customizable areas, that's when things fell over. That was the long and the short of it. If you're curious for more details on what exactly went wrong, you are welcome to read this bug. Developer lacks space between the arrows and the address bar. I wonder if your developer edition may have hit the bug. If you restart your developer edition, SmurfD, you may find that suddenly your toolbar, you may have had the previous update already queued. If you restart developer edition again and it looks like this, and this goes for anyone who will have fallen into this issue and hit this bug. If you end up being in this state, the solution is unfortunately to reset your toolbar state. So you have to go into the app menu, go to more tools, customize toolbar, and then hit restore defaults, and that will put everything back into its default state, and then you can start moving things around the way you liked them before. Unfortunately, we wanted to keep the patch simple to increase the probability of it landing and sticking, so we didn't try and put some kind of repair routine in. SmurfD writes, welcome back. Have you seen Zen browser app based off of Firefox? I have. This is a very interesting project. This is basically a fork of the Firefox source code. I don't know which version of Firefox is forked, but this is, fully supported by the license agreement for Firefox. The people are allowed to fork the browser. That's great. There are a lot of interesting things being done in the UI. So there's like a sidebar. We've got our own sidebar cooking, but this person also has one. They've got like split views. That's the thing that people have been asking for. They're getting tab groups. So are we, for that matter. A fast profile switcher. It has it. I believe it integrated an add-on that does profile switching. It's got container tabs. It has a concept called workspaces that I don't think Firefox has by default, and full support for its own compact mode, and obviously it has like its own unique theme. Like if you take a look, it's a unique theme. So what do I think of it? Neat. Forks aren't a threat. Forks are great. Forks mean that people are trying stuff. You want to make sure that your fork is being reliably maintained, that the person maintaining it knows what they're doing. So this person obviously knows how to change the UI of the browser, but what prefs are they flipping? What things are they turning on and off in the platform? Are the mods just extensions? I don't think so. Like I suspect that this person, like I haven't looked at the source code, but I'm going to suspect that they're actually changing the source code or maybe patching the source code and not just embedding extensions. But I seem to recall someone looking at this and saying, oh, the fast profile switcher is like an extension or something. But maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, it's neat. I'm personally, this is fine. Forks are fine. If anything, it's nice because it lets us see what people are really interested in without us having to necessarily put in the work. So, for example, Zen, and there's another fork. It's kind of a weird name. It's called Flurp, which kind of sounds like, you just spilled something on the ground. Flurp. But it also has, I think, a sidebar. I'd like to see a screenshot, please. Wow, look at this web page. I'd love to see a screenshot. It's maybe in the release notes. So here's a screenshot. They don't have floating tabs. They've got tabs that are attached to the toolbar. They have a sidebar that is on the right. I don't know if they can go on the right or the left. But otherwise looks fairly similar. It looks like they've also got some kind of split view here, which is interesting. And yeah, so what's neat about forks is that they can try stuff. And, we can kind of get some early signal. The thing about the Firefox user base is it's large, and that also means it has varied tolerances for various things. Like, there are some people who would look at this UI and be like, this is incredible, this is exactly what I want. And there are some people who, if you were to update the Firefox UI to look like this, would go, what is this? I hate this, shut it all down. It's not what I'm used to. So, like, it's difficult to be something for everybody, especially if you've got a mature product that has an established user base. That's tricky. So something like Zen or Flurp or any of the other forks that do UI customizations, it actually offers a really interesting opportunity for us to study what people what certain people are interested in. And, it means that there are people who are learning how the Firefox front end works, which is great for our developer community. Like, this person is working on they have vertical tabs. Do they have a distinctive implementation, like a distinct implementation from our vertical tabs? Maybe they can work with us on the with our vertical tab implementation, or maybe they want to use their own. That's fine too. Or for the split views, maybe there's a way they could contribute that if we were interested in doing some kind of split view thing, or we could work with them on it. Because like we've got our own sidebar. Are they using ours? I'm gonna guess probably. And maybe there's more we can do there so that we can reduce some of the, have them contribute some of the good ideas and work with us on some of the good ideas so that they don't necessarily have to maintain them, while allowing them to do their own interesting things and be kind of like research and development. So yeah, I think they're great. I think forks are cool. No, not a threat. Not a threat at all. To give people options, it's nice to use Firefox, is Firefox OSS open source software? Yes. Yes, it is. It's a great question. Yes, it is. All right. So what did I want to work on today? Well, so this whole thing, the bug that we ended up fixing happened to be in the module that that we were documenting, and I wanted to keep working on documenting it because I think part of the issue that for what ultimately caused this bug is that this module is really complicated. It's long, it's complicated, it's mature, it's got like lots of old like bits and pieces and strange behavior. There's vestigial parts that don't necessarily make sense anymore from when they were introduced. Like the module itself, I think, was introduced. Let's see how old it is. Let's see if we can get a quick estimate on how old the module is. I remember when it was first introduced. We're going to use Mercurial and go through the logs. The front end is JavaScript. There is some sort of middle components that are also written in JavaScript. There's bits and pieces written in C++ and some pieces written in Rust. So let's go right back to the beginning. How far back can we go? And that's when it was moved around. Customizable UI. Go back further. Digging into the past. I think there's a little bit of assembly as well in some of our decoders. There's like a tiny little bit of assembly and maybe some Java as well. Like I believe this to be true, that our HTML parser is written in Java and then transpiled into C++. I think that's true, which I've always found interesting. Keep going. So we're back at least 2013. Blair McBride, move all customization code. So it's going back even further. And so like I'm in here for this original revision, and like this, it's still very long and complicated, this first version, this version from 2013. Let's keep going back further. Milestone 1. Yeah, I believe I landed the very first version of this module. And I'm sorry every day because it is long and it's complicated. Now, in my defense, I did not write the initial version. I was basically taking over for someone else who had started it. And this was one of the first projects I worked on whenever I first worked on Firefox. It wasn't exactly the first, but it was one of the first. And yeah, Milestone 1. I think we merged this stuff in. But it's a 6-digit bug. And 12 years ago was whenever this bug was first filed. I think Blair's the one who started the implementation. And then, yeah, I took the helm and got it landed 11 years ago in 2013. So this module has a long and sordid history. And I want to have us do better for documentation. And so we had started last week looking at fixing up a bunch of the documentation, and I wanted to do that right now. Or I wanted to keep working on that. Excuse me. Now, one of the things that we had last week, and I don't know why we don't have it right now, is we had like highlights indicating where we had failures to lint properly. I would like to, can't load prettier. I want to run the linting. It's complaining about stuff. How was I able to get the embedded linting working last time? Did I have to do something special? Failed to load a config. Do I have to like Mozilla node modules? Oh boy. Do I have to like run some kind of like linting mock lint help? Is there some kind of like lint VCS thing to make it work? grep IDE or editor. All right, well, in that case, we're just gonna have to use the command line and we'll work through it. I had it working last week. I don't know what happened. Maybe Visual Studio needs to restart. Let's do it real quick. Visual Studio Code. Customizable UI. There. I just had to restart VS Code. Sometimes you just need to give it a kick. And so the next issue that we're dealing with is some, like it's all JS doc stuff. That's what we're starting with, is making sure that the JS doc is valid. So let's keep going here. So we have this parameter, which is something, create widget, which is an object. That's what the documentation is talking about. It's an object that takes all of these properties. So we actually have a very complicated thing to express here, which is one of these create object, create widget objects. And the way we've been doing this is to, I think, use type defs and have properties properties documented like this, where you have these types, and then you could also have those types documented here as a callback. In this case, this is just like a bunch of callbacks, so that's how that works. But for create widget, we're going to want to do a type def, and these properties are not necessarily callbacks. I actually don't think any of them are callbacks. I could be wrong on that. Some of them might be callbacks. But we're going to be doing a type def on a create widget object. Customizable UI, create widget parameters or props. Create widget properties. And then it will take a string, which is the ID, string ID, the type, a string indicating the type of the widget, string type, and then it takes a view ID, and it says that only useful for views and button and view widgets, the ID of the panel view that should be shown. If you use the custom widget, the widget must also. So this may not, I think this can be undefined, or string view ID. What was it? View ID, yeah. View ID. I think that can be undefined. Then on build. Okay, so we do have a callback. On build. Customizable UI widget. We're going to say create widget on build. And we'll call that on build. And I'm pretty sure only useful for custom widgets and required there. And then on before created. Okay. On before created. We should actually start grabbing these things, and we're going to be doing something similar down here. We're going to define these things. So a create widget on build takes what? Just a document. Document. Doc. Okay. And what does it return? Should return the DOM node that has been constructed. Okay. So we can actually returns element. So some of this is relevant. A function that will be invoked with the document in which to build a widget should return the DOM node that has been constructed. The DOM node that was constructed for the widget. The document to create the widget in. Okay, and that's that one. And then something similar for on before created. What's the documentation there? Attached to all non-custom widgets. non-custom widgets. So built-in widgets, non-custom widgets. Attached to all non-custom widgets. What does that mean? But oh, type that is not custom. Okay. Attached to all button and non-custom widgets. I think that's actually more useful in here. Called for all button and non-custom widgets. Invoked before the widget gets a DOM node constructed for it, passing the document in which that will happen. This is useful especially for view type widgets that need to construct their views on the fly. Example from bootstrapped add-ons. We don't have those anymore. That's probably something we could revisit. If the function returns false, the widget will not be created. Okay, so the document that might have the widget created. The document that the widget might be created in returns a Boolean. True if the widget should be created, right? On before created. If it's false, okay. On before created, okay. I could probably copy some of this other stuff too. The ID of the widget. This is required. Widget to be created. Type. Okay. A string representing, I don't think we need to say string, the type of widget to create. The valid types are button for simple widgets. Default. View for buttons that open a panel or subview. Button and view. Combination of button and view, which looks different depending on whether it's located in the toolbar or the panel. When located in the toolbar, the widget is shown as a combination of blah, 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 and custom a fine-grained control over the creation of the widget. Okay, great. And then view ID is this one. What's it saying? Only useful for views and button and view widgets and required there. When set, should be set to the ID of the panel view that should be shown when clicking the widget. If used with a custom widget, the widget must also provide a toolbar item where the first child is the view button. Okay. Required in those cases. Right. All right. Almost caught up. And then on build, only useful for custom widgets and required there. Required, only useful, I'll just, whatever, yeah, there we go. There we go, and that's all of these, so we can actually probably just go, get rid of those. On created, a node, so these are also all callbacks, so it is a lot of callbacks, cool. So the next one is on widget after DOM. No, sorry, that's this is all leftovers. It's on created. Okay. And it takes a node attached to all widgets. Function that will be invoked. Okay. Attached to all widgets. I think on created will, is it required? No, it is not. So I think we can get rid of that. A function that will be invoked whenever the widget has a DOM node constructed, passing the constructed node as an argument. So element a node, the DOM node that was constructed for the widget in a document. And I don't believe there's any return value. Okay. And then on destroyed. It's a bad version of TypeScript. No, this predates TypeScript. This is called JSDoc. This is just a way of documenting. The whole point of this, just to be clear, this isn't just me moving text around. The whole point of this is so that we can ultimately produce some documentation that kind of looks like this. What's an example that I want to show you? To the front end. I want to be able to like this is automated. This documentation is generated automatically on build, like every night, and it takes advantage of the inline the inline JSDoc style JavaScript in order to generate this documentation. So TypeScript, I think, actually it was inspired by or is somewhat inherited from JSDoc. To answer your question, Alv. On destroyed. All right, so similar. Copy that. A function that will be invoked. Has a DOM node after a widget has a DOM node destroyed, passing the document from which it was removed. This is useful especially for view type widgets that need to clean up after views that were constructed on the fly. So that's for laziness on destroyed, right? On destroyed, yeah. And what does it take? On destroyed takes the document. Interesting. The document that the widget was destroyed in. Okay. We'll get rid of that. Okay, how many callbacks do we have left to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it gets a little bit easier, I think. Let's get through these. This next one's on before command. Oh, I'm pretty sure I needed to make this on. Wait a second. What did I do just now? Yeah, I did the wrong one. On destroyed, on before created. That should be on before created. And I'm pretty sure on destroyed is also optional, right? Yeah, if on destroyed. Okay. On before created. Or sorry, on before command, not before created. We already had created. On before command. Command, on before command. A function that will be invoked, and it takes an event and a node. A function that will be invoked when the user activates the button, but before the command is evaluated. Useful if code needs to run to change the button's icon in preparation for the pending command action. Called for any type that supports the handler. The command type, either view or command, may be returned to force the action that will occur. View will open the panel and command will result in calling on command. Oh, I see. So this will return a string. And it takes one to know one. It takes an event and a node. The click event on the button that occurred on the button, and then element a node. This is on before command. That's the node. What is node? Handle widget command. Node. The actual element, not the widget. Okay. The element upon which the click event occurred. That's redundant. We could get that from the target. But c'est la vie. And then before command, let's see what if widget the action is returned, and then we look at whether the action is command or view. So it's one of action or view. Returns one of action or view. Okay. Then on command. On command. And that, I think, just takes the event. I don't know if it's the click event. So let's take the documentation here. Useful for custom button and view widgets. A function that will be invoked when the user activates the button. A custom widget with a view should return view or command, continue processing the command per the needs of the widget. So this also returns a string. Return one of view or command. On command. We call on command. Doesn't look like we actually do look at the return value. So that's wrong. A custom widget with a view should return view or command. Yeah, the actual return value isn't, we don't do anything with it. We'll just call it passing the what event. Do widget command. If the action is command, then event. Widget command. So that's the command event. The command event. Click handler, handle widget click, handle widget command, handle widget click, widget on click, handle widget command. Okay. So not true. The command event that was fired for the widget, for the node, activates the button. And in this case, the command event, the element upon which the command event occurred. Yeah, okay. On command, there we go. There we go. Next, on click, which is different from command, because I believe at least for Zool widgets, click is distinct from, keyboard activation. I think for the web, that's not the case. I think those two are often conflated, or you don't really deal with the difference. Function is invoked when the user clicks a widget, and it takes the event. Okay. When the user clicks a widget on click, the click event is fired on the widget node. Clicks a widget node. Okay. On view showing. 2 left. On view showing. Only useful for, okay, we'll copy that and we'll put it here. A function that will be invoked when the user shows your view. If an event handler calls prevent default, the view will not be shown. The event's detail property is an object with an @blocker method. Handlers that need to perform asynchronous operations before the view is shown may pass that method a promise which will prevent the view from showing until it resolves. That's interesting. Additionally, if the promise resolves to the exact value false, the view will not be shown. Okay, so the event on view showing. Wrap widget event handler on view showing. View showing. Okay, sub view events. Add event listener. View node. Handler is on view showing. Right. Okay. And panel multi-view showing, or view showing view showing event. Dispatch async event view showing. What is event name, dispatch custom event, and what is the listeners, dispatch custom event. Huh. Okay, so view showing doesn't, if I remember correctly, view showing, add event listener view showing, view showing. Okay, yeah, it's just the event. Like, there's nothing special about what it gets. It's just the view showing event. The view showing event. See panel multi-view.sys.mjs. Showing this in-code documentation, such a vital part of good sustainable software, and every engineer should deeply care about it regardless of their level. Agreed. 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 And this stuff is particularly hairy. If you have a bunch of hairy code, you know, you've got a couple of options. So my tips, if you are, here's a tip. This may happen to you in your software development career. You suddenly inherit a bunch of strange, mature, but hard to reason about code. And suddenly it's your job to refactor it, make it better, clean it up, etc. I highly recommend, as your first few steps, is you start with find the documentation, find the documentation gaps, because there might not be any documentation, and then start building documentation. Start there, and start with testing. Start with testing and documentation before you start refactoring. And that way, you build out a clear understanding, as much of an understanding as you can of the system, the ecosystem of code that you've been saddled with. And then if you build up a nice corpus of tests, then you can start refactoring with a little bit of confidence that you haven't changed its behavior unintentionally. You know, in some cases you will want to change its behavior, and in that case, write tests for it. And that way, you know, the tests also kind of act as a form of documentation. It's almost like maybe a slightly less friendly documentation, but tests are a way of asserting what the expected behaviors are, which is a form of documentation. So yeah, start with documentation, start with testing, and then refactor. Where are we going? Okay, so on view showing, that's done. Let me clear that out. On view hiding, same difference. I think this is our last callback, so we can, when a user, we can move on from this in a second. When the user hides your view, I don't think that can be blocked either. On view hiding. The view hiding event. Property on view hiding. Only useful for views and button in view widgets. All right, and that's it for our callbacks. Now things get a little... What tech stack are you using? Great question. So Firefox is not a web page, but it sometimes masquerades as one because it uses a lot of the technology. Like the engine that's used to render web pages is the same engine that's used to render the UI. So you can sometimes look at the source code of the UI and be like, oh, this is kind of like a web page. But there are very important differences, though, in terms of the privileges that the UI source code, the UI has access to. We definitely don't want the web pages to have the ability to like change the Windows registry or something, even though like our JavaScript can. Like ours, the UI's JavaScript has that elevated privilege, but web content can't do it. So our tech stack is the web engine that powers Firefox, which is mostly written in C++. It's the web engine that, if you trace it all the way back, we inherited a chunk of code from Netscape when Mozilla spun out from Netscape, and we are a distant descendant of that source code. And a lot of it's written in C++, and the JavaScript engine is our own. It's called SpiderMonkey, and so it's fairly bespoke. But it is a web engine. Like the tech stack is very webby. So if you are a web developer, a lot of what I'm doing might seem somewhat familiar, although it's not like so. A lot of modern web developers are familiar with things like Node, which it's like a JavaScript runtime that uses the Google Chrome's V8 engine. And there's like a lot of tooling for Node, and there's NPM and stuff. We have some of that tooling to do things like our linting, or to there are certain parts of Firefox that are built in certain ways, like with React and whatnot, and they use Node and NPM to do all that stuff. But for the vast majority of the Firefox front end is written using like vanilla JavaScript, vanilla modern JavaScript, and sometimes we're using stuff from the JavaScript engine that hasn't even really been shipped as part of the web. It's like extra special stuff that the front end gets to use, because we don't have to worry about other engines. When you write the JavaScript for Firefox's UI, you don't have to worry about having it render correctly in Safari or Chrome or Edge or IE. Remember those days? You just have to target the one engine. All right, property string L10NID, a Fluent string identifier for localized properties, localizing attributes on the widget. Present preferred over the label tooltip text property parameters. Tooltip text, that's also a string. Tooltip text. You can sort of see here, like, this is clearly introduced after Fluent was introduced, and a lot of the stuff is from before Fluent was introduced as our localization mechanism. A string to use for the tooltip of the widget. A label. String to use for the label. A string to use for the label of the widget. Localized. I think these are also kind of deprecated. String. Localized, if true or undefined, attempts to retrieve. That's interesting. If true or undefined, attempts to retrieve the widget's string properties from the customizable widget's string bundle. Is that still true? Do we even have that anymore? This might be deprecated. Use Fluent instead. Get localized property from gwidgets bundle, which is customizable widgets.properties. So we actually have this still. Ooh, so we still have some of these. These should probably get migrated at some point to Fluent, eh? Ah, good stuff. Localized. So, what's the JS doc way of saying deprecated? Banana JavaScript? deprecated property. Param together with deprecated. It's not clear. Used for deprecating else than an entire symbol. Okay. So I'm going to say deprecated in favor. Use fluent. Use L10 and fluent instead. Okay, so I'm going to copy that here. True or undefined attempts to retrieve the widget string properties. I'm going to say deprecated. So let's see this in action. Localized. If widget localized equals false. Okay. Turn def. Huh. Alrighty. Okay, removable. So these are all, I think, these are all optional. Is L10N ID optional? No, it is not. Or yes, it is. It's not required. It is optional. Removable. True. This is fairly self-explanatory. Whether the widget can be removed from its customizable area, from its default customizable area. From a customizable area. Note, if you supply false here, you must provide a default area too. Overflows, whether the widget can overflow when in the overflowable toolbar. Whether the widget can overflow when in an overflowable toolbar. When placed within an overflowable toolbar. Default area. String. Default area. The default area to add a widget to. Optional, default none. So I think I can, if not supplied, this widget will be placed in the palette by default. This, an area is required if a valid area, default area is required if the widget is not removable. Getting closer, almost done. Shortcut ID. ID of an element that has a shortcut for this widget. Okay. I don't really know what this means. The ID of an element that has a shortcut for this widget. This is only used to Display the shortcut as part of the tooltip for built-in widgets, which have strings inside customizable widgets properties. If you are in an add-on, you should not set this property. Okay. If ltenant ID is provided, the resulting shortcut is passed as the shortcut variable to the fluent message. Okay. All right. I don't really fully know what that means, but okay. Show in private browsing. Show in private browsing defaults to true. Whether to show the widget in private browsing mode. Browsing mode. Windows. Hide in non-private browsing mode. False. Whether to hide the widget in non-private browsing mode. Windows. Hide the widget in true. To show the widget. True to hide the widget in non-private browsing mode. Windows. Tab specific. If true, closes the panel if the tab changes. Tab specific. What is the default value there? Okay. Tab specific. True to close any view panels if the selected tab changes. Property Boolean. Location specific. True to close any widget view panels. Widget view panels if the location changes. This is similar to tab specific, but also if the location changes in the same tab, we may want to close the panel. I think that's self-explanatory. I don't think we need that last part. Web extension. Property. Whoops. Boolean. Web extension. True if this widget is being created on behalf of a web extension. Okay. To create a widget, you should pass an object with the desired properties. And that is this. A properties. The specifications for the widget, the properties of the widget. I'm going to say properties for the widget to be created. Returns, and then it returns something called a widget wrapper. Wrapper. Zool widget group wrapper. Zool widget group wrapper and widget group wrapper. It's one of these two. Widget single wrapper. Create widget, wrap widget returns a what? It's a group wrapper. Okay. So returns Zool widget group wrapper or widget group wrapper. Done. Wow. That took some doing. But we did it. We did it, everybody. So now let's run our linter again and see how many, see if we made a dent. Banana JavaScript, says Alvi. Interesting. How many failures do we have now? We have 60 problems. That's less than half of what I think we started with. Let's keep going. Line 5096. Param. Oh boy. More of this. Get a widget. The object provides the following properties. Okay, I'm not going to do one of these for now. Like, so this whole thing I did of type defing, what we're describing here is the wrapper interface, and that should really go down where a wrapper is defined. So I'm going to not do that until we get down to the wrapper stuff. The ID of the widget whose information you need returns. It's going to be a widget group wrapper or a Zool widget group wrapper, or null if the widget is not known to exist. A non-null return is no guarantee that the widget exists because we cannot know in advance if a Zool widget exists or not. It's true. Okay. Next, returns an array of widget wrappers. So either a widget group wrapper or a Zool widget group wrapper. See, get widget. Next, param string a area. The ID of the area whose widgets you want to retain. It returns an array of widget wrappers and or null values for the widget IDs placed in an area. So it's going to be an array. How do you describe in JSDoc, describe an array of different kinds of things? Documenting a mixed array. Describe a mixed array. So array, and then that's how you do. Okay. Array, and then it's either going to be some Zool widget group wrappers, widget group wrapper, or a Zool widget group wrapper, or null. Param view node. The view node, to ensure the customer has a widget that matches up with this view node will get the right subview showing when they fire. How is this used in the wild? Dispatch custom event. Ensure subview listeners. This node. Okay. Associated to node. 4 node. Panel multi-view node. So it's just going to be some node. A view node. Panel view. Yeah, it's probably a panel view node. The view node to add listeners to if they haven't been added already. Great. FYI, we can hear the bell. What bell? Oh, like the terminal bell? Like the... Is that what you're talking about? Probably, my bad. Let me, how can I turn that off? So probably if I do, can I control the volume of the output? How do I control the output volume? It's probably in OBS actually. Audio output. Let me bring that back. How's the sound effects if I do it this way? Like, that's probably really loud before, eh? I have a feeling so I updated OBS. I have a feeling a lot of my levels got reset. I'm just looking at all my microphone levels look like they're different than by default. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Looking like I'm resetting my volume levels. Sometimes Firefox isn't the only thing that changes your settings when it restarts. Sometimes it's OBS too. Hey, software's hard. Okay, string, the ID of the area whose type you want to know. Okay. Returns string. Returns type toolbar, type panel, depending on the area, null if this area is unknown. Customizable UI.type toolbar or customizable UI.type panel, depending on the area, null if the area is unknown. Great. String, a area, the ID of the area's default collapse state you want to know, returns a string for true or false is... Oh, no, returns Boolean. Returns... Wait, does it return a string? Default collapse. Is toolbar default collapsed? Get default collapsed. Yeah, okay, it's going to be an actual Boolean. Okay. Returns true if the toolbar area is collapsed by default, or collapsed by default. False if not collapsed by default, and null if the area is unknown or its collapse state cannot normally be controlled by the user. Okay. Param string area ID a window DOM window. The window where you want to fetch the DOM node returns the customized target DOM node for an area, for a area in a window. Great. Returns promise. Promise resolves with undefined. Wait. Returns resolves. What's the problem here? Invalid JS tag name resolves. Oh, I think it's like this. Returns promise undefined. A promise that will be resolved when the operation is complete. Okay. How's our time? We're doing all right. Let's take a look at the number of errors now. We should probably be down by quite a few. Thank you very much, NeroTor, to letting me know about the volume problems. Hey, we cut it down by like 14. Pretty good. Let's keep going. String, toolbar ID. The ID of the toolbar to remove. Yep. Sounds right. Returns, Boolean. A Boolean. True. True if the restore defaults, if the restore defaults operation can be undone. If the last restore defaults operation can be undone. Okay. Get the placement of a widget string. The ID of the widget's placement you want to know, and then returns an object. Oh, a very interesting object. Description null returns placement info. Placement info or null. And a type def. Customizable UI placement info. Param. String area. The ID of the area where the widget is placed. Param. Number. Position. The index of the placements array corresponding to the widget. The index of the, I'm going to say the position, the 0 indexed position of the widget according to the placements array of the area that it's in. Not dead areas. Areas. Area. Returns null if the widget is not. Returns null if the widget is not placed anywhere, i.e. in the palette. Is that the right way of doing the type def? Yeah, I think so. Type def. Oh. Object. That's how that's done. Yeah. Okay, keep going. More errors. Param, string, a widget ID, returns Boolean. True if the widget can be removed from its area. False otherwise is implied, so we can remove that. Check if a widget can be moved to a particular area. String, the widget ID or DOM node you want to move somewhere. String, or element. So you can call that with an element. Dragged item ID. Can widget move to area? Widget ID. So web extension widget. Is widget removable? If it's a string, can widget move to area? Widget move to area is special widget ID. Get special ID for node. Is web extension widget. A widget ID is not string, return false. Is web extension widget. Placement of widget. index of widget ID. So I think even though some parts of some of the things that are called can accept a widget object, I think this is supposed to be a widget ID. The widget ID you want to move somewhere. String. The ID of the widget that you want to move somewhere. Area. The area ID you want to move the widget to. This can also be area, no area. There's something called area, no area. Yeah, apparently. Customizable UI.area, no area to see if the widget can move to the customization palette, whether it's removable or not. Returns Boolean. True if this is possible. The same caveats as for is widget removable apply, however, if no windows are open. Interesting. Okay. Set toolbar visibility. What are we doing for time here? We've got only a few minutes left here. String, toolbar ID. Toolbar's visibility should be adjusted, and Boolean, whether the toolbar should be made visible. Okay, that looks right actually. So we've got a mixture of correct and incorrect JS doc in here. Can we get under, let's see, can we get under 30? I think we can probably get under 30. What did we start with at the start of the day? At the very start of everything, I think, what did we start with? We started with 62, so we cut it almost in half. Let's if we can get it to 30, we've cut it in half, so that's good. Deprecated, use Fluent instead. Get a localized property. So string, the object, this is an object, not a string. The object is property we should use to fetch the localizable. What? The object whose property we should use to fetch a localizable string. Can also be the ID, I guess. String. This is going to be a Zool widget single wrapper or a widget single wrapper, I think. Prop widget dot localized, like. Is it a single wrapper or is it a, what's widget in this place? In this case, localized widget, normalize the widget equals this. Widget implementation, default area, wrap event handler widget. Normalize widget. What? Group wrapper, create widget. Create So maybe it's not a wrapper. Maybe I'm wrong. Widget ID, create widget, create a normalized widget. I think it might just be an object. So when do we create a Zool widget group wrapper? Create a wrapper to wrap widget. Wrap widget. Oh, we do. We do. We wrap it here. We wrap it. So that's right. Okay. So in this case, I think widget is actually an object. It's a string or an object. The ID of a widget or a widget object whose property we should use to fetch a localizable string. Okay, a prop string. The property on the object to use for the fetching from customizable widgets.properties. Format args. Any extra arguments to use for the formatted string. Interesting. How does that work? Get localized. What is it? Get localized property. A format args. If it is array, format args, then it's an array of arguments for formatted string. Okay, so string. Any extra arguments to use for a formatted string. I think it's a string array. I think maybe it's just an array. Mixed stuff. Array, string, number. I think you could probably use anything. Get localized property. A format args. Is anything actually using that? Get localized property. Who calls get localized property? I don't know if anyone's actually using this anymore. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Get localized property, and then format args is an array. In this case, a shortcut. Shortcut is what are you? Shortcut is gonna be a string. And then, so yeah, I'm gonna say these should be strings. It's deprecated anyways. The default to return if we don't find the string in the string bundle. Okay. Param. The default to return if we don't find the string in the string bundle. Okay. Returns a localized string or a def if the string isn't in the bundle. If no default is provided, if a prop exists on widget, we'll return that. Otherwise, we'll return the empty string. Okay. I guess that's reasonable. All right. How many issues now? 30. We did it. Okay, we cut it down to 30. I have a feeling next stream we'll get that down to 0. We should probably get that down to 0, and then we could maybe start our first foray into getting some of this JS doc stuff turned into Sphinx JS inline, like generated documentation, like this stuff. So we can start looking at that maybe next week. I'll show you how that works, and we can start maybe fleshing out more of the documentation, finding places where documentation doesn't exist and adding it, and making some improvements there. I realize this is maybe not the most exciting episode, but this is the sort of the necessary grunt work if you want to have maintainable code that people in the future are going to want to read and understand. So thanks for watching. Thanks for watching episode, what was this? 378 of The Joy of Coding. It's Wednesday. Yep. And let me know what you thought. There's a rate this episode link right here. I'll actually just drop that in the chat in case you want to follow that. Here's a link to rate this episode. I read everything that comes in. If you want to let me know what you thought of the episode, that's also a great place. If you want to ask me questions that you want me to answer on the stream or try to answer on the stream, you can send them in via that form. And if I've coded the form right, then you get like a little reward at the end, which is a unique photo of me going like, "Hey!" Every form ends with one of those. OS Frog, says Neurotor. I don't know what that means. I'm guessing that's some kind of Twitchism. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will hopefully see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Whoops.
The joy of coding.
See ya.